Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. As always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Topper_Talk, and follow our YouTube channel at Topper Talk Podcast. Get those notifications every time we upload a new video episode. Share them, tell a friend. As always, I've got Tyler here with me. We've got a big episode with a lot of information to dive into. Tyler, you ready to get it moving?
Yeah, man, I'm trying not to die, and this long episode's going to test me, but I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Before we get started, let's talk about our sponsor, and that is the Fireman Moving Company. This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. They are the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you're looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. And I promise you, it'll be the best and easiest thing you do regarding any moving needs you may have, whether near or far, big or small. I promise you they will make your life easier and just make that moving process as quick and painless as possible. Now, before we jump into the meat of the episode, we've got to get caught up with our Red Towel wrap-up, which catches us up with any WKU athletics we've missed since we last recorded. So, Tyler, hit us with that Red Towel wrap-up. What have we missed?
All right, so on 12-9, men's basketball went up there and beat on Buffalo, beating them 82-65 for a dub. The following day, the women's basketball team dropped the contest 59-67 versus Ball State. And then tonight, a few hours before we are actually doing this, the men's basketball team kind of won in a nail biter up until the end versus Wright State, 91-84. Now, since the last time we have released an episode, Paige Briggs, volleyball player, she was drafted 5th overall in the inaugural Real Pro Volleyball League draft. She was drafted by Orlando and traded to the Omaha Supernovas. WKU Cross Country named a new head coach in Lee Wood, previously from Drury University. And Malachi Corley was invited and accepted an invitation to the Reese's Senior Bowl. So overall, a pretty good Red Towel wrap-up. Paige Briggs, volleyball superstar, making Western proud. Malachi Corley going to go on and do great things in the Reese's Senior Bowl. So I'm happy with it. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, the men's basketball team's really coming together. We're seeing them start to string together some victories. Piggybacking on what we talked about last episode, when just after the Red Towel Trust launch event, we got to talk to Coach McAllister quite a bit there, and he talked about just the way this team was gelling. They were learning how to play defense without fouling, and going to start putting some good games together. Now, first half of this game versus Wright State, we saw a lot of fouling, a lot of free throws for Wright State, kind of put us behind the 8 ball a little bit. Once we cleaned that up a little bit in the second half, quit fouling so much, basically just giving them free opportunities at the free throw line, we saw us start to take the lead, start to pull away some, and kind of keep them at a distance to where we were able to close that game out, mainly around our solid defense. But then we just also had a really, really good game from Don McHenry. Christian Lander had a really good game. Tyrone Marshall. Just a really impressive effort. And then I know our next game is this Saturday at home versus Austin Peay. That's a close regional rival. Somebody that I think we should play pretty regularly. We should beat them, 99% of the time. It should be very rare that they ever beat us. But it will be a challenge. They do appear to have a pretty formidable team this year. So I hope everybody shows up, packs diddle, and starts to really get behind this basketball team and what Coach Lutz and staff are building over there, because that basketball team is really starting to gel. We've kind of said all year that they're going to be competitive just based upon their defense. But now, that defense is starting to turn into offense, and we're starting to see some wins. We're starting to see them clicking a little bit, putting up 91 points on the road. Without doing a quick dive and finding out the research of when's the last time they did that, put 91 points up on the road. It's hard to win on the road, and they went and did that. And then Paige Briggs, in the inaugural Pro Volleyball League draft, was the 5th overall pick. She was the first outside hitter picked in the draft. She was ultimately traded from Orlando to Omaha, but just what an honor. What just validation of this program and the types of players that we are constantly recruiting, developing, and putting out there. She's going to be a great piece for that team and for that league, I'm sure, for many years to come. So really excited for her and that new opportunity there. So now let's get into our main segment of the episode, and that is going to be recapping the 2023 season and then looking at the bowl preview that we have coming up versus ODU. Now, WKU finished the season with a record of 7-5, and we will be playing ODU in the Famous Toastery Bowl. Our 5 losses this year came versus Ohio State, 63-10, Troy, 27-24, Jacksonville State, 20-17, Liberty, 42-29, and New Mexico State, 38-28. So, Tyler, just want to get your just quick hit reactions there. 7-5. Talk about those losses. They were pretty much all close losses except for that Ohio State game. I guess what's your just quick at a glance reaction to this 7-5 season that we just had from the football team?
Well, whenever we were coming into this season, we thought we knew we was probably going to lose one, so that was no surprise. Some people counted on 2. But man, I mean, that loss to Troy, I am tired of losing to them. That one hurt. Jacksonville State hurt. Liberty, it is what it is. And New Mexico State, I had to eat crow on that because I said no ball hawks, and their coach was apparently listening and use that as motivational. But I mean, am I mad at 7-5? No, not really. Am I happy with it? Definitely not, because I think this team should and could have did more. Now, the fact that they were close losses, kind of numbs the pain a little bit. But because if we were getting blown out by Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, heck, Troy, that would really have killed me. But I mean, and I'm sorry, and empty possession here, empty possession there, and really that's the difference in the game. So yeah, I mean it sucks, but it is what it is, and I'll take 7-5. I just had higher expectations.
Yeah, the season was tough. I mean, both of us came into this season expecting us to kind of pick up where we left off last year, maybe have a slight downturn in offensive production. We were kind of replacing a lot of pieces, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, we knew that the offensive side was probably going to have to carry the load. Losing to Ohio State, it looks terrible, 63-10. But we know that we came out super aggressive in that game. We went for several 4th down opportunities. Just had some turnovers. Some plays that didn't work out, and it worked in our didn't work in our favor. The Troy game, close loss. Lost by 3. If anyone remembers, the time of possession in the game was like 40 minutes for Troy, 20 minutes for us. So they pretty much just played ball keep away with us, and it's hard for us to score and win if we're not possessing the ball. So Troy, that good rushing offense that they have with Kamani Vidal, one of the top running backs in the country, and then they had a really solid defense, was able to close that game out, pepper it away with a good rushing offense. The Jacksonville State game, that was probably one of the most disappointing ones for me. It was just kind of highlighted by just a second half of just inconsistency. We only put up 17 points. We averaged almost 30 for the season and only put up 17 that game. You're not going to win a lot of games with 17 points. That kind of feels like one that got away. The Liberty game, I mean, they had an unbelievable season. They just have established themselves as a really good program. They have a good coach, even though they're breaking in a new coach. They were breaking in a new quarterback, but they just have tremendous resources, good facilities. They recruit well, with good coaching. They went undefeated this season, no matter what their strength of schedule was. They beat everybody on the schedule, and they earned a New Year's Six Bowl invitation, and I think they earned that compared to some of the other peers that were in contention for that. And then the New Mexico State game, that was here at home, with an opportunity to put ourselves in position to go to the Conference USA Championship. We let that one get away from us. We just weren't, consistent enough on offense, and I think that was kind of the overarching theme of this season is just inconsistency on offense. Um, and a lot of that was played out by just a number of injuries that we had. And we talked about those, maybe not week in, week out, but just they were really kind of driving home, why we were seeing so much inconsistency. Before the season started, we learned that Mike Matheson was out in fall ball. Was reported. We weren't sure how long he'd be out. He ended up missing the entire season. We also saw, Malachi Corley missed time in the first game USF and then missed the Houston Christian game. Dalvin Smith missed time. Craig Burt missed time. Blue Smith missed time. Donut Evans missed time. Upton Stout, Rome Weber, Mark Good. I mean, just several, highly productive and, highly thought of pieces that we thought we could lean on to help this team, just be in better position to win games. When we have that many guys going down, and especially, the several guys we listed on the defensive side, we talked about, previewing the season after spring ball and heading into fall ball, that, the defensive side of the ball was really, really young. We were replacing I think we were replacing 7 starters of 11 on that side of the ball. We're just breaking in a lot of new names, a lot of new faces, and we thought those few that we mentioned were kind of going to be the guys that had to carry the load, lead the team by example, make sure everybody was doing what they need to be doing their job. Then we had several of those guys get injured, go down, and our defense, unfortunately, took a step back as far as yards per game allowed, scoring allowed per game. Now, I was still impressed overall with the defense. If you want to look at how they performed, especially how young they were and how injured they were, I was still pretty impressed with them. Now, for the season, WKU averaged 29.8 points per game with 396 yards per game. 288 yards of those were passing and 108 yards rushing per game. We finished the season converting on 41% of our third down attempts, and we were the number 51 scoring offense in the nation. So, Tyler, what's your thoughts on the WKU offense that we saw on the field this year in 2023?
Well, it's like I told you earlier, it kind of left me wanting because we knew what Austin Reed and what Corley can do, and, Dalvin Smith. None of that's a secret. I guess some of the newcomers like Messer and Blue and all of them, that was kind of, going to be anybody's guess. But, we knew what this offense could do because we did it last year. We've been doing it the last few years, honestly. We've been rolling, putting in big numbers, putting up, score on score. But, with this one, I would have, if you would have told me earlier in the year that we'd be, going 288 yards passing per game, I probably would have called you a liar. I thought maybe we would do like 350, or more. I was looking back at our schedule and stat leaders, and in one game, when we're going to talk about probably later, UTEP, Reed only had 102 pass yards. I remember watching that game. It was crazy. And thankfully Young had 139, but when was the last time we saw a WKU quarterback, pass for 102 yards? Probably Picky T. And that's because he never threw a pass over 20 yards. In fact, he didn't really throw me passes at all. Very disappointed in him. And I don't forget. But, I'm still not going to bash on this offense. We're still 51st scoring offense. I really wish we was a lot higher than that, but I mean, it's the end of the year. It is what it is. It like I said, it just left me wanting more from the offense. Watching the games, some of the coaching, it was very this season. It was very frustrating on some of the play calls. It seemed like Austin and his receivers were kind of miscommunicating. You'd see the receiver, cut back and the pass was way overthrown, like he was supposed to go, deep, or it was just thrown over their heads or way low. So, I'm just not. I'm not. Yeah, I guess I'm just wanting a lot more from this offense because I know what it can do.
Yeah, it really feels like a perfect storm of a season with a number of factors. One, we lost a couple key offensive linemen to the transfer portal over the offseason. We are breaking in another new offensive coordinator for the fourth year in a row. Now, granted, we did have Austin Reed and Malachi Corley back, main cogs of the offense. But then we learned that Mike Matheson's out before the season starts. And he's a guy that kind of relieves a lot of pressure off of the attention that Malachi is going to get on the other side of the field. So just starting from there, you kind of already feel like you're fighting an uphill battle. But there's just a lot of variables with injuries, new faces, people that transferred out the year before. There's just a lot of stuff to overcome this year. And, obviously for those reasons, we took a step back in what we expected, what Tyson Helton and even the guys on the team, Austin Reed, Malachi Corley, Drew Hollingshead, the guys leading this team wanted more and expected more of what they did this year. And we just didn't put it together. But adversity is part of life. It's part of football. But how you deal with that is really, a bigger judge of who you are and how you are as a team. I think this team dealt with adversity pretty well and fought through things as the season progressed. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, WKU allowed 28.2 points per game, which when they're scoring 28.9 points per game, that's pretty much putting you in shootouts every game. We were allowing 428.3 yards per game. 238 of those were passing and 190 yards rushing per game. That is the number 86 scoring defense out of 133 teams. And we were the 11th worst rushing defense, allowing 190 yards rushing per game. So, Tyler, what are your just quick hit reactions on the defensive side of the ball and what we saw in the results this year?
Well, you're right. At the beginning of the year, we did say, or it was a noted fact that we were going to have to replace a lot of players, and this was a younger unit, and it shows. Thankfully they held teams to less than their 30-point plateau that typically you got to get in Conference USA to win. But when you're the 11th worst rushing defense, and we said it a lot during our keys to victory: contain the run, stop the run, try to, at least the best, try to contain the run, stop the quarterback from getting out, put a spy on him. It's like we said that every week, because teams ain't stupid. They know what they can do against you. They watch tape. They know what your tendencies are, and I wish that number would be a lot higher. But man, it's crazy that with the 11th worst rushing defense and the number 6 or 86 scoring defense, we only lost 5 games, and one of those, Ohio freaking State. I still don't respect them, but they did force us to watch that game. Troy, a lot of them are shootouts. So dang, that sucks, but it is a young group, and it was riddled with injuries. So as next man up, just plug and play for it seemed like most of the season.
Yeah, it seemed like every week when we were previewing games, we were talking about teams and their running abilities or mobile quarterbacks. It started with USF. They had a really super mobile quarterback. I think they had over 300 rushing yards between their quarterback and their running back that game. Then we faced Troy. Jacksonville State had a good rushing attack. New Mexico State had a good rushing attack, a good mobile quarterback. Liberty, they led the nation in rushing yards per game between their running back and their quarterback. So, that was just a obviously glaring weakness of this defense for a number of reasons. Again, injuries, and just execution and just youth on that side of the ball. And it was really exploited by a lot of the teams, a lot of the matchups that we had this year. And I'm still proud and impressed that, of that 7-5, 3 of those were basically one score games that we were right there in. The Liberty game got away from us a little bit. The Ohio State game obviously got away from us. The Mexico State game there at the end got away from us, but we were in that right till the end. So, we talked about several times this year that for as many lumps as the defense took this year, we were gaining a lot of valuable repetitions for a lot of young players that moving forward were going to be even more impactful and just have that much more game time experience that they're learning from, kind of thrown into the fire, but they're learning from it. And going forward, that's going to do nothing but pay dividends to, their future experience and how they perform, going into next year when now they're an experienced player, not this young first time starter, being thrown into the fire. Now they've been under lights. They've done this. They're not thinking about, they're just playing ball. So I'm excited for what the future holds because of, the challenges that we had to face this year, especially defensively. Now, special teams wise, our boy Lucas Canario finished 8 out of 11 on field goals on the year. He was good for 72.7% with a long of 45 yards. Then we also had 57 punts on the season between Tom Ellard and Corey Munson. We had an average of 40.8 yards with a long of 60 yards. So, Tyler, what's your thoughts on the special teams unit that we had in 2023?
Well, I wish Can't Miss Canario was 100% on that field goals. But he missed 2 in one game, which whenever I saw that, I was like, this game's probably going to be a loss. But special teams overall played really good. I know the only months in the first game where he had to come in and fill in as punter. Yeah, the punch didn't like maybe 30 yards. I think was some of them, but overall special teams, played their part and was pretty good overall this whole season. So I'm happy with them.
Yeah, I think special teams was probably our most consistent unit. As we recapped games and graded units, we always did offense, defense, special teams before we did coaching, and then overall and fans. So special teams was usually our most consistent grade. They typically did their job. They didn't put us behind the 8 ball. That one game when Lucas did miss 2 field goals was about the only outlier there. So really impressed with those guys. Obviously, Corey Munson having to fill in, late in the season for Tom Ellard for his personal issues. He came in, took his lumps that first game, but then, those last couple games, he started putting some boot on that ball and it made us proud. So I'm really proud for how that turned out for us and for him. And obviously he's got one more game to, come in and shine and just be that, that loyal senior that we have on the team, especially for special teams. Now, looking at our team leaders in 2023, obviously our leading passer was quarterback Austin Reed. He finished the season 289 out of 470, which is good for 61.5% completion percentage. He had 31 touchdowns and 11 interceptions on the season, and he was sacked 7 times. Elijah Young was our leading rusher. He had 96 carries for 460 yards, which is a 4.8 yard per carry average, and he had 3 touchdowns. Then we also had Marquise Stepp, who had 310 yards with a 4.5 yard per carry average and 3 touchdowns. And then Davion Irvin Poindexter finished with 217 yards with a 3.8 yard per carry average with 1 touchdown. And one thing I found interesting was that over the course of 12 games, we had 4 different guys lead us in rushing. Those 3 guys, plus we had LT Sanders led us in rushing one game. So almost too many riches at some times. It seemed like when we started to feed the ball to Elijah Young towards the end of the season, established himself as the workhorse running back, we started to see more success in the run game and just more continuity, and he was able to establish a rhythm and led us in rushing, I think, 5 of the last 6 games. So we'll see what that holds going forward. But we felt coming into this season that we had a really deep stable at running back with some versatility there. And that did prove to be true. But then we also saw, one of those guys who was an unknown, Elijah Young, separated himself and became kind of RB1 by the end of the year. So, hopefully that leads into next year and big things. Now, our leading receiver this past season was Malachi Corley. He had 75 receptions for 958 yards with 11 touchdowns, and he did that in 10 games. Missed most of the first game versus USF. He went out after the second offensive possession for Western, and then he missed the entire Houston Christian game. He became WKU's all-time leading receiver in receptions with 255 heading into the bowl game. And then we also had Dalvin Smith that had 41 receptions for 436 yards and 3 touchdowns. Easton Messer had 35 receptions for 416 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then our boy, River Helms, had 17 receptions for 263 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts on, the guys that kind of led us offensively this past season?
I mean, I apologize. Sinus infection. I'm trying to get over it. I am really happy with our stat leaders. I mean, the fact that our offensive line could keep, Reed clean, only allow him to get sacked 7 times, and I'm going to guess the majority of that game. No, during the Ohio State game, I think he was only sacked twice because that was the first time he was sacked. I know for sure. Compared to the quarterback that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, that 7 times is absolutely nothing. I'm looking forward to what the future holds for Elijah Young because, he did prove himself. I think him and LT Sanders is definitely going to be a great 1-2 combination. And it was crazy that we had 4 running backs that, each led the team throughout the season in rushing yards. Malachi Corley, that's a no-brainer. He's wide receiver 1. He's going to be your main target. And I feel like sometimes that was a double-edged sword because, when Reed would drop back, I felt like he was tunnel vision on Malachi. So, and he would throw into double or triple coverage sometimes. But that's absolutely crazy that he's just like 42 yards away from breaking 1,000 in 10 games. I'm definitely, I know he's going to top 1,000. Hopefully he gets about 1,200. I'm going to go with the bold prediction that he's going to blow the top off ODU, and I'm here for it. Screw you, Sunbelt. I'm glad the Easton Messer and River Helms, came in and played their part because, the more rep they get, you talking about defense, that's definitely going to help out the offensive unit next year. Marquis Step, I was really high on him coming into the season. I saw him as a big power back, and he did whenever it came time to get them short yardage. He was definitely always in the mix as they're on the field. So, I mean, overall, I'm happy with our stats leader. Dalvin Smith, Barron County. Actual Barron County boy from Glasgow. But the boys making us proud here in this area. So, man, I'm thrilled to death with this offensive leaders.
Now, the defensive side of the ball, we were led in total tackles by Talik Allen. He had 50 on the season. We also had Kendrick Simpkins, who had 48. Kylan Guidry had 47. And Desmond Baker had 42 tackles on the season. Kendrick Simpkins led our team in sacks on the year with 7.5. Sebastian Benjamin also had 3. And Jaden Loving, Hosea Wheeler, Kylan Guidry, and Terrion Thompson also all had 2. Now, Anthony Johnson was our team leader in interceptions with 3. Desmond Baker had 2 on the year. Bryson Washington had 1. And Upton Stout had 1. Now, worth noting, Upton Stout missed a lot of time when he broke his collarbone versus MTSU. Came back late in the season. And I recall he had a couple interceptions called back early in the year by penalties. So, he still was kind of that ball hawk playmaker when he was playing. Unfortunately, he did miss a lot of time, due to injury. We've talked about that kind of ad nauseum, just the youth on this side of the ball, new faces, new names. Pretty much all those guys that we just listed were new to the rotation. Not guys that were expected to step up and be the team leader and tacklers, but here we are. And some guys stepped up, made plays, and they'll be back next year and more experienced, and the veterans next year. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts on the WKU defensive stat leaders from last year?
Hey, it's crazy to think that, Donut Evans, we're talking about Kendrick Simpkins and sacks. Man, could you imagine if it was him and Donut Evans out there? Because Donut got injured and had to take the rest of the season off. But dude, that would have been a quarterback's worst nightmare. I mean, you got a safety or defensive back coming in on one side, and you got Donut Evans just swallowing up defenders and trying to get to you. Man, that would have been amazing. But I think of Bryson Washington. He had his interception came against MTSU, or was that Anthony Johnson? Was it Anthony Johnson?
I'm not sure. I don't recall.
I know. It was big because I think he was a walk on, or he was a senior. Came in, got the interception, big interception versus MTSU because piss on them. But no, I think our defense. You're right. A bunch of young guys, they really stepped up, had to come in, fill the holes because of injury or because, the person in front of them transferred or graduated or what have you. So, I mean, the guys really, really, and that's why they got the nickname Takeaway Tops, because they come in, they would either get an interception or they'd force fumble or get a pick six or scoop and score. And, they relied on the bend, don't break philosophy. I feel like that has worked with us in the past, and I'm I'm glad that the guys out there were playing for us on defense. I'm just happy about that. Sorry.
Now, before we shut down this season recap, we did have a chance to catch up with a special guest, and one Malachi Corley joined us to talk about the season, that we just put to bed as far as the regular season goes. We got to talk about the season, the adversity that he and the team faced, and then got to look forward to, this bowl game coming up versus ODU, his Senior Bowl, and, pro day and NFL draft and combine aspirations and what he hopes to be able to do for that preparation. So let's go check out that interview right now. All right, and our next guest that joins us needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyways. You might know him as the Yak King. We refer to him pretty often as wide receiver one on this podcast and this Twitter account. And he just became WKU's all-time receptions leader with 255 going into our bowl game. And I also like to refer to him as Debo personally because of my affiliation with being a 49ers fan. And I think his game really matches up to one Debo Samuel there with the 49ers. So I've got Malachi Corley joining me. Malachi, welcome to the show. I really appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day and joining us here.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on here. I'm excited to get it started.
Yes, sir. Now, before the season, we heard you talk a lot about having opportunities to go play other places in the nation. I've heard you tell this story a couple times. You've had, multiple offers and just you could win nearly anywhere in the country. but you decided to remain loyal to Western Kentucky, come back to Bowling Green, and finish out your career here. How does that? I guess how did that decision look now in hindsight? Now that you're, basically to the last game of your college career, when you look back at that decision, how does that sit with you right now?
Ultimately, it was the best decision for my future going forward. I felt very comfortable here, having Coach Helton here, bringing in Coach Hollinkhead, having Coach Mizell here, bringing in Coach Spurlock, who came from the NFL. It was a comfortable decision that I made, knowing that I'd have a staff who believed in me and trusted in me, would put me in positions to be successful. I got the ball almost more than anybody else in the country last season. Our quarterback led the nation in passing. I felt like there was no reason for me to really leave the situation. If I could draw, I couldn't have drawn it up any more perfect. And just everything that came together, I felt really good going into the season. Obviously, it didn't end the way that we wanted it to. Some bumps in the roads, some injuries that set us behind. Sometimes that we didn't capitalize on big moments in games and fell short. But I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world. Being able to come back to Western and be a part of this family and this community one more time and one more year was the picture perfect ending to my career here.
Absolutely, man. We really enjoyed that you came back. I had to hear a follow up on that decision. I knew it has been a good one for you, and also for your your future NFL aspirations as well. Now you have a really unique, I guess, situation at Western Kentucky because you have played behind multiple great quarterbacks. In 21, you played behind a guy in Bailey Zappi that set NCAA records in passing yards and touchdowns in a single season. He goes on to get drafted in the NFL. He's having a pretty good, start to his career there when he gets a chance to play. Last year, we transitioned into Austin Reed, new quarterback, new offensive coordinator, and all he does is lead the country in passing yards last year. And you're kind of that main focal point, that top target for him. Because just how special and how unique is it that you've got to play and have two just such highlighted and decorated quarterbacks throwing you the ball these last few years?
It's been unreal. They make my job easy. They make me look good. They were two of the most talented guys that I've ever been around. Bailey Zappi was the most intelligent and smart quarterback I've ever seen. The way that he could draw up coverages and ways to beat him on the field, make adjustments and check plays at the line of scrimmage. How composed he was in the pocket. He was unreal to watch. Great leadership, was passionate and fiery as a player. And then we transitioned over to Austin Reed. Austin Reed has the arm talent of, it seemed like he was gifted by God by that arm. And he's extremely talented. And he brings a lot of fire and passion with him. A big energy guy, a high motor that gets guys involved and gets guys going. So bringing in Austin was not too big of a change of pace. Having a guy that could sling the ball around the park, throw the deep ball, be precise underneath. They made the transitions really easy for me. Wasn't too much to adjust to with Bailey and Austin. I know that the ball would be on time and on target. If they made a check, I assumed that it was the right decision, whether it be the run game or the pass game. Just being able to play with guys like that and learn from them and get to see the field from the perspective that they have. It's been great for the development of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a pretty good problem to have when you got two guys that are, probably both going to play in the NFL throwing you the balls. Now, over the last decade, WKU has kind of transitioned from, we had a long lineage of stellar running backs for a while. Then we were tight end university for a while. Now, over the last, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, however you want to look at that, we've become this pass heavy and oriented offense where there's always good quarterback play. There's always a lineage of incredible wide receivers here. So just, I guess in your years here at Western, who are some of the wide receivers that you played with that maybe took you under their wing when you were younger and kind of showed you the ropes and that you've learned from during your time here on the Hill?
Obviously that 2021 year, I can't think past it. Jarrett Stearns and Mitch Tinsley, the way that they worked and the way that they showed me the way to go about my business. Very focused and very humble people. Weren't the biggest talkers, never talked crap or anything during the game. Were very focused and driven people. Not too much partying or outside work. They were all balls, straight and arrow. Being able to learn from people like that who are so dedicated to their craft and getting to understand that you don't have to be the most boastful person to be very cocky in order to play this game. You can be an elite player while being humble and giving all your glory to God, and being able to play with guys like that was unbelievable, and was a big, and I give them the credit for giving me that big stepping stone into 2022. And when I finally got my chance to shine, I knew how the right way to go about it, and then on top of that, you have David Davis, who he worked his tail off, and he was an older guy when he got here, showed me the ropes as well. And then even while they're in the NFL right now, Daywood and Mitch, they still give me pointers and tell me about how their days go, told me about how it was being a rookie. And Day was telling me a story about being undrafted. Mitch is telling me a story about being undrafted and how it goes and how it is to be in that locker room and how to work your way up that totem pole and things like that. So great deal of guys to play with, and people that I haven't played with, like Jagor Pearson and Lucky Jackson, who were great players in their own rights, did a lot of great things here, broke records here for themselves. Lucky's in the NFL right now, and even when he was down here over the summer, me and Lucky got some working together. I got to pick his brain and see what his mindset was when he was playing, and how he went about being such an elite player and things like that. I always call Lucky, I call him the original 11. I call him the original 11 because he is. He's a vet, and he's my OG, and I look at him like that. And he's given me all the pointers that he could possibly give me on how to take this thing over and how to be a great player here. So, yeah.
Yeah, going from 111 and Lucky to you, Malachi Corley, those careers, man, it's just, I don't want to say unheard of, but it's just a really special and lucky situation for us here at Western to get to witness, everybody that you mentioned, but especially you sticks, you 11s that have come here and just been amazing wide receivers. Now, I'm not trying to point you to the direction of my answer here, who I think your NFL game resembles. But is there any NFL player as you've grown up, now you're playing high school and college ball, is there any certain NFL player that you kind of model your game after? You see how they play, just their dedication to the craft, their route running, their physicality at running. Is there anybody that you model your game after in the NFL?
So when I was growing up, the person I always watched was Percy Harvin. Percy Harvin was the Yak man before, I guess, Yak was the cool thing to be. But Percy Harvin was electric at the University of Florida. And as growing up in Florida, I was a big Florida Gator fan. So being able to watch Percy Harvin and model my game after that entire team with Chris Rainey, Jeff Demps, all those elite football players, they really put my mindset in the right place to getting Yak after the catch and things like that. But in terms of the NFL right now, obviously it's hard to look past Deebo Samuel. We have that similar body frame, similar talent base, very agile, but muscular guys who can run you over and also run after the catch as well. We're not slow, but we'll still run through you at the same time. But A.J. Brown as well, he's a bigger receiver who likes to run slants and things across the outside and still get yak and impose his will on some of those outside or some of those cornerbacks and safeties and things like that. And that's the way I like to play my game, a real physical brand of football, not shying away from any contact or anything like that. And I'll run straight through your chest if I have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all those guys are stellar players. And I think, your game is very complimentary and your skill set's right up there with any of those guys. And I can't wait to see what you do when you get to that next level. You touched it on earlier, this season not quite getting to go, how us, the WKU fan base, and I'm sure the team and coaches had hoped for, dropped a couple games, didn't make it to the conference championship. But this season opened up for you with an injury very early against South Florida. You went out, I think it was on the first drive, just minutes into the game. I think you were 4 catches for 55 yards, just burning them up early in the game, missed the rest of that game, missed the Houston Christian game. I guess, what was it like for you in that moment, not knowing what that injury was and what it could have been, for your season, but then also having to take a step back, let your body rest and heal, and getting to watch some of those younger guys kind of step up and get their turn to make some plays. I think some guys definitely opened some eyes those couple weeks while you were sitting out.
Hitting on my injury itself, when it happened, like you said, I'm 4 catches, 55 yards in. I'm going crazy for the first possession of the game. I'm thinking that I'm going to get off to a big night for the first game of the season. And then, as that first possession goes on, I'm starting to feel like some shortness of breath and some tightness in my chest. And, I'm not really thinking too much of it. In the second possession comes, we run a play, and the ball's kind of behind me, and I reach for it and get knocked down by the defender. And while I'm getting up, I just don't have the willpower to get up. It just feels like there's something slicing down the middle of my chest, and I can't really breathe. there was a lot of uncertainty that moment. I didn't really know what was going on. I was pretty scared. My brother came down and was in the tent with me. But just having worked so hard, getting to that point, and to have it kind of felt like it all got taken away from me so instantly, that wasn't a very good feeling. But once I found out what direction it was in and found out it was just some bruised ribs, I knew that I would be okay. I wouldn't be able to go back into that game, and I'd probably have to rest the week. But I knew I'd be fine in the end. But getting back to the game, I get back to the game, and it's still the third quarter. Easton Messer, Katie Hutchinson, Dalvin Smith, they're all going crazy in the game. They're leading us back into the game. We ended up having a pretty stellar victory with some nice plays from those guys, big plays in order to keep us going. And for that to be the first game and everybody at home getting to see those guys for the first chance, because all going into the season, everybody's Malachi. And then you see these different guys come into the game and start making plays. It really, makes the fan base go like, who are those guys, and start really wanting to follow up with those guys as well. But even through the course of this year, Katie, Easton, they have made play after play. They've scored touchdowns for us, made third down grabs, fourth down grabs. They're really gotten to the point of being reliable receivers for us. And even with Musa Berry in the first game, he came in as a walk-on, just got there in the summer. He was making plays all throughout that game as well. And they're really starting to put their name on the map. And throughout the season, they've made play after play. And going into the spring, they have put themselves in a great position to maybe be the guy for next year, and have all that clout and all the preseason accolades around their names as well.
Yeah, it was really exciting getting to see those guys step up. I think Easton Messer, I think you had called him like the spring or the fall MVP coming into this season. So I was really excited to see him step up. Musa Berry, heard great things about him from some other guys that have trained with him. So I think we have a really good young core there for the future years. Looking at this season, obviously you've had an amazing season. We still have one game to go. But just looking at your season highlights, you scored a touchdown at Ohio State, in front of 103,000 people announced there. You had that just record-setting, unreal day against Louisiana Tech. You had a big senior night. Then obviously in the last game of the regular season, you broke that all-time receptions record. So what were some of those moments like? And, are you reflecting back on that yet? Or are you still so locked into this season that you're not really just kind of enjoying how successful this season's been for you personally?
Each of those moments have been incredibly unreal to me. As a kid, and especially as a high schooler, I envisioned playing here and being a record breaker when I got here. Everywhere I've gone from middle school to high school, I've always done things that other people haven't been able to for whatever reason. And I've worked my tail off in order to be into this position. So as I'm going through this journey, I'm taking in every moment as they happen. I'm not waiting till it's over to reflect on it. I'm feeling it, and I'm feeling it out as it's going on. So scoring that touchdown in Ohio State, as a kid, you see all the amazing Ohio States and all the amazing Ohio State teams and all the great players that have gone through there. And for me to be in the shoe in front of 100,000 people and score that touchdown, as a little group of five kid from Campbellsville, Kentucky, middle of nowhere, scoring a touchdown against those guys and being in that national conversation, it was unreal. And then you get to La Tech, that was only a God-given performance, going for 200 yards and, stapling my name into the second place for receptions and things like that. It's unreal how these things have came together for me, how the trials and tribulations, ups and downs have all came together in order for me to, sit at the top of the hill when it's all said and done. It's been unreal for me, and I'm extremely grateful. And as these moments continue to happen, I'll continue to cherish them.
Absolutely. Now this season, the regular season, the team ended 7-5. There was a ton of adversity all year, like you just kind of pointed to and alluded to. We've had injuries up and down the team, especially the wide receiver room all season. Coming into this, ending fall camp, coming into the regular season, we hear Mike Matheson's out missing time. You miss time yourself. Dalvin, Craig Burt, Blue, kind of everybody. We've had a lot of adversity, and just so many new pieces that we talked about that have had to step up and had to make a name for themselves. How will you look back and remember this year, this season, and this team, even if we may have fell short of a Conference USA championship game or winning that championship? How are you looking back on this season and just all the adversity that's brought to this team and to yourself personally?
I just feel like this year was just a really unfortunate year for a really great team. I feel like we had all the pieces that we could have possibly needed in order to make a great run. In the preseason, I'm thinking we're going to go to 11-1, maybe lose to Ohio State, and I think that we'd give them a run for their money in the preseason. And like you said, the loss of Mike Matheson is the other pronounced receiver on the opposite side of the field for me, to take a little bit of the pressure off me. I didn't have that luxury of having Mike on the opposite side of the field of me, and that showed as the season continued on. And then missing guys like Blue, missing guys like Dalvin, Craig, even myself throughout the season. Just unfortunate event after unfortunate event. On the defensive end, we lose Upton, we lose Donut. These are some of the best guys on our defense. We lose guys like Snook Edwards to injuries before the season even starts. So I had a lot of injury plagues this year, and I think that we were capable of a lot of great things. And even though we had a lot of injuries and a lot of setbacks, we were still capable of winning every game that we lost. We had enough willpower. We had enough firepower as a team. We had the coaching staff. We had the players every game to win every single game that we lost this year. And for whatever reason, we just didn't pull it together. But I don't look at this year as a terrible year by any means. We still have the opportunity to play for a bowl game and win that. And outside of that, I know that this team was a very hungry team, and we were a tight-knit group, a band of brothers who, from the start, since January to now, we have busted our tails every single day, day in and day out. And I've seen myself grow and develop as a leader and as a man, growing in my character and my leadership and my responsibility. And I've seen the younger guys kind of follow that example that I'm setting for them, and start to be more responsible and more mature and be more trustworthy in their own right, not just on offense but on defense as well. I think this team has a lot of young guys who are really hungry and want to get better on both sides of the ball, and I think there's a lot of great things to come forward as they continue to learn and get more reps and grow bigger and stronger and get with Coach V and get in the weight room and start working on their diet and eating and things like that. There's a lot of great things to come from those young guys. But I think that everyone on this team gave it everything they had. I think in practice was the most competitive year of practices that I've seen. And I think all the coaches and all the players would agree to that as well. I think that as a team, our camaraderie, the way that we interacted as friends and as brothers, even our locker room interactions, playing music, things like that, we always were having a good time. The funniest team that I've ever been a part of, it was a great experience for all of us. And that's really all I got to say about it.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about this team that even after the loss to New Mexico State, when, the chance of going to the championship game was gone, it was off the table. But we still had two more games. We still had to clinch bowl eligibility. This team could have just mailed it in, coasted to the finish line, postseason or no postseason. But you all went out there and had a couple great performances to finish the season on a 2-game winning streak, going into the bowl game, which is coming up against ODU in the Famous Toastery Bowl, former Conference USA foe that has now moved on to the Sun Belt. So, what do you know about ODU, and how are you and the team preparing for this upcoming bowl game?
I know that the times that I played Old Dominion, they're a very tough and gritty team, great coaching staff, and they always have a great receiver or two. Offensively, they usually have a bunch of weapons that create explosive plays for them. So as an offense, that we have to know that we have to put points on the board in order to combat that. Our defense has a heavy load as well. They have a good amount of run game and tempo, like I said, with some great receivers, So we've been preparing, we've been lifting, we've been making sure that we're staying on top of our conditioning. Although we've had a couple weeks off since our last game, they've been making sure that we've been staying on top of our conditioning. We took the last week and we did practices on Monday, lift on Tuesday, practice on Wednesday, that kind of alternating vibe, making sure guys still got a little bit of rest while still staying on top of the game plan and everything. We met every single day, making sure guys know what's going in the game plan and what we're going to do in order to score points on them and what we're going to do in order to stop them. I feel like we have a good feeling and a good morale as a team. Although we've had the turnover to the portal and things like that, I think that, we have that next guy up mentality. And I think we have, like I said, a lot of young guys who are ready and hungry to get into this position, who have been waiting for their chance to play all year, and when you've been building up that fire all year, it's bound to explode at some point. So like I said, our practices are staying competitive. Everyone's getting after it. Like I said, more young guys are getting their reps in, and they're starting to really show what they can really do. As the years gone on, they've continued to lift and get stronger, be in the film room and all these things. So I think I have a really good feeling about this game. I think we're going to go out guns blazing. I expect us to throw the ball all around the park like we normally do and put on a Western Kentucky display with, lots of defense, lots of blitzes and everything, and throwing a lot of them schematically on defense, mixing it up, making it hard for the quarterback on their side, throwing the ball down the field and getting the screen game and run game going for us on offense.
Yeah, I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see, kind of the cap, the feather in the cap of this season. I know we're going to walk off with our heads held high, no matter how this game plays out. Now, I don't want to put the cart from the horse. We obviously still have one game left to play this year, but looking towards the postseason now, you have been invited and accepted an invitation to play in the Reese Senior Bowl. That's going to be a really great showcase for yourself against some high level competition. Kind of how does that feel for you? Getting invited and getting to play in that game with some other great players across the nation.
It feels kind of unreal to be a part of something like that, especially coming from a group of 5 school like Western Kentucky, and we didn't have the best year as a team. Where there's guys like Jaden Daniels that are going to be there, Blake Corum, Trey Benson, Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Leggett. These are some of the best players in the nation, who are going to be highly drafted players and who have had great careers in their own right. And being a part of something like that and being regarded by not only our fan base and in my inner circle, but the entire nation as one of the best players in the nation. So it feels absolutely unreal to be in this position and have an opportunity to go showcase what I can do against some of the best, because week in and week out, those guys in Power 5, they get to play against the Michigans, Ohio States, the Florida States, Florida. They get to play against all of them every single week. I get 1, maybe 2 opportunities to play against an extremely established team every year. And every year I put 100 yards against Auburn. I put 80 yards as a freshman against Michigan State. Put almost 100 yards against Ohio State this year. So every year I've competed against the best. But at this bowl, I'll really get my opportunity to show that, hey, I can do this against whoever at any time. I can run the routes. I can run people over. It doesn't matter. My game doesn't change depending on who I'm playing against. So ultimately, if I have a good showing here, this can put me in a great position going towards the draft. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. I'm really blessed and grateful that I was gifted with it.
Absolutely. You're going to fit right in with that group of athletes. And you named, again, the Heisman Trophy winner, one of the best running backs in the nation. I mean, a really good group of guys, and you're going to fit right in there. Kind of staying on that same page, kind of immediately after that, you'll be prepping for our pro day and then the NFL draft prep. Are you planning on staying here and doing that here locally in Bowling Green, or what's your plan for prepping for the NFL draft and that next level of your career? And do you have any plans for an NFL draft? Maybe having a family party or going somewhere specifically?
For me, I'm going to train with my trainer in Louisville out of Aspirations Gym. His name is Chris Vaughn. He's the only person I ever trained with since high school. I trained with him starting junior year of high school, and he's gotten me right ever since. He's a super head down, focused grind type of guy. The gym isn't the biggest, but we get after it in the best way I know how. I don't come from much. So the way we get around it is just like just like Rocky's gym and all the Rocky movies, small in the trenches, slugging it out. That's how we get after it. And that's how I enjoy to go about my business. But for the draft party and all those type of things, I'm going to have my function in Campbellsville, Kentucky. I'm going to open it up to the entire city of Campbellsville because it's bigger than me. I'm the only person from my school to ever sign a Division I letter of intent. I had 19 people on my high school football team. You know what I'm saying? 250 people in my school. Like, that's something that's big for not only me, but the entire community. So I want everyone to be a part of that. I want the young kids to see that they can accomplish the same thing that I accomplished. And, it doesn't take anyone special from any certain area of the world in order to do something great, so I want them to have that opportunity as well. Pro Day 100% will be here. My thing is just that it's always rainy and cold here for Pro Day. Every year is rainy and cold. So my thing was if we look a weekend ahead and we know it's going to be rainy or, bad conditions or whatever, I'm thinking in my head to be able to move it to like maybe South Warren's indoor or something like that, because I want to put myself in the best position to be successful. And rainy and wet conditions while running a 40 is not the best. But hopefully I get that combine invite as well, which I can't foresee myself not getting one. So be able to, present myself in front of the GMs and the owners and some of the scouts and the coaches across the NFL would be a great opportunity for me to present my talent. So, yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I love hearing you talk about opening it up to your Campbellsville community, because here recently, since you broke that all-time receptions record, you were able to be honored at the basketball game against Campbellsville. And then I saw in your social media, it looked like you were honored also at a Campbellsville high school function. So just really special that, that small, close-knit community bond has never been broken there. And I think we're kind of seeing that same thing with your loyalty here to Western Kentucky. And, I had a post recently just kind of highlighting that, we may never see another Malachi Corley, Brandon Dowdy type player that breaks some of our all-time school records. Just in today's world, that loyalty is just uncommon. So it's great to see. It's great to see that loyalty that you've displayed to Campbellsville, and it's special. It really is. Now I can't let you get out of here without touching on one more thing. And the way that we've met and we've linked up a couple of times has been through the Red Towel Trust. You are a Red Towel Trust athlete, and I've heard you tell this story a couple of times, but I would love to hear it shared, kind of on this medium, maybe to a few more people that might hear it, and maybe help get behind the Red Towel Trust Collective and what it's trying to do to empower our student athletes as they get out and help in the community. And just helping us be a desirable location and able to retain players, when we do have homegrown special talent here on the Hill. So I guess tell us about the Red Towel Trust and how it's been impactful for you as a student athlete here during your time at Western.
Well, it has been revolutionary for me, and not only myself, but my family. It's put me in a position where I'm not only able to take care of myself, but the people around me. Being in a position where I'm able to, pay the rent for my mom, when my sister takes my niece to all of these competition cheer events and all across the United States. They stay at all these hotels and have all these dues and all these things, and I'm able to pay for all these things. Put all the money in her pocket and things like that. Be able to give my donations to her charities and things like that. My mom is big on community outreach. We try to pay someone's rent, anonymously every single month. So these things are not only important to me, but my family as well. And for myself, it's given me the platform and the position to be able to hang out with little kids at the Boys and Girls Club and go to the housing authority and spend time with those kids who, may come from, broken homes or single parent house homes where they don't have that big brother figure or a male model for them. So being able to speak good into those kids and, let them see something other than what they see in their daily lives and see that a kid who comes from nothing as well can be successful in their life as well. So I'm thankful for that opportunity and to be able to have that type of platform. And for myself, it's given me the opportunity to be financially stable. Most kids at 21 aren't able to be financially stable and, be able to take care of their car payments and take care of their apartment and this and that, and still have money for food and to be able to eat out and take care of fun things like go on a flight back home and go see your family, anything like that. No one in my family ever has to worry about money. If they ever need anything, they could always call me. And I love being able to take care of them in that manner. So that's all what Red Towel Trust has done for me. And in order to, keep good players here and to be able to bring in good transfers and we have to be able to put money together in a financial plan for these guys to be retained here. We don't have the money that Alabama or Georgia has, but we have to be able to come up with something in order to bring in really good players here and to keep the players that we already have here. And in this world of college football, it's a money hungry world. Schools come at you with, 6 figures, and a young kid who comes from nothing, they jump at that in a heartbeat, so we have to be able to help kids out like that in that manner and be able to take care of those financial issues for guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that story again. I love hearing it just every time I do, because there's this misconception that just, players are out here getting rich and just bags of money. And that's really the outliers. There are some of those athletes out there that's an outlier. Here at Western Kentucky, we're just trying to help some of our athletes take care of basic needs, not only for themselves, but for their family. So if you're listening and you're on the fence about joining the Red Towel Trust Collective, I hope that story helps you jump right on in, donation packages. Subscription start as low as $5 a month. You can make single time donations. Just visit their website. I mean, it's definitely impactful. You heard it straight from, wide receiver one here telling you that it's impactful in that world of NIL. Is not going to go away. It's not going to change. We're going to let you get out of here, Malachi. I know you're a busy man. You have a busy schedule. I really appreciate and thank you for coming on. I wish you the best of luck in your bowl prep. And then obviously beyond that for your pro day, senior bowl, NFL draft, combine, etc. as you get ready for that April draft. We really do appreciate you coming on. You've got a big, huge fan always in us here at Topper Talk. And we appreciate you coming on, sir. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here, Steve. It was great being able to share this platform with you and have an opportunity to share my story with you. So thank you.
Yes, sir. It was a long time coming. We appreciate you. Go Tops. Man, what a special interview that was. It was really great to finally have a chance to sit down with Malachi Corley. We've literally been trying to plan that since the spring, since spring ball. We linked up, met up for the first time, and he had expressed his desire to join us on the podcast and talk football. But once we got into the fall ball, and his schedule just got hectic and crazy. It's just hard to put that together. But now that the regular season's ended, we saw him at that Red Towel Trust launch event last week. He came over to me and said, "Hey, buddy, I'm getting on the podcast before the bowl game." So we put that together, made it happen, and I'm so glad we got to just hear him talk about the season, just talk about the adversity, his love for the school, his love for Campbellsville, and just his hopes for the future, as he looks beyond his collegiate career. He's an incredible person off the field. I think he's a high character guy, and he just really happens to be a good football player. He's a great representative of Western Kentucky University on and off the field. He's been great in the community, and I really cannot thank him enough for taking the time out of his schedule to join us and talk some football, with a couple of guys that just, happen to have a microphone and a podcast. So we really appreciate that, Malachi. Thank you for coming on, and you're welcome anytime that your schedule allows. Now, looking forward to our upcoming bowl game, WKU plays ODU in the Famous Toastery Bowl at Jerry Richardson Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina this coming Monday, December 18th at 1:30 p.m. on ESPN and ESPN+. Now, the betting line opened with WKU as a 1-point favorite, but that line has since shifted to ODU being favored by 2.5 points. The over-under is currently set at 55.5, but the ESPN Power Index favors WKU with a 60.2% chance to win. This will be the 8th all-time matchup between these teams, with WKU currently holding a 6-1 series lead against their former Conference USA foe. They last played in 2021 in Norfolk, Virginia, with WKU winning 43-20. ODU's only win in the series came in 2018 during the Mike Sanford era, which you might remember. It was in Bowling Green, Kentucky. The game ended with ODU having 3 consecutive untimed downs due to penalties, and they were able to hit a walk-off field goal to get the victory in one of the oddest endings to a game that, we could only do here at Western. We pulled a Western to allow them to get their first and only win of this series. But Tyler, what are your thoughts of this ODU bowl matchup just on paper? How does it look to you?
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not crying, guys. I swear I'm just losing my voice. Especially when he's talking about the defense. I felt like felt like people would think, man, he's tearing up on this. No, I feel like this shouldn't be a close game, and the way I bet it, I'm going to take us to definitely cover that spread. That's just me. That's not betting advice. That's just me, what I'm going to do personally. But no, I feel like we, based on our history of 6-1 and that one loss, coming during the Sanford area or era, I feel like we should definitely go in there and be able to handle business. I feel like our defense is going to come in, regain that takeaway tops. Get the 9 knockouts that the defensive coordinator always talks about. And I feel like we're going. I feel like we're going to hoist up that famous Toastery Bowl trophy there at the end of the game, man.
I hope so, and I agree with you. I think we're going to do it. Now, I was able to catch up with Gary from the ODU Monarchists podcast to help us in previewing this game versus ODU. They were unable to join us to record, but they were able to answer some questions that I was able to pose to them. I asked them about what were their preseason predictions for this ODU football team, and they had this team at anywhere from 4 to 5 wins to 5 to 7 wins, mainly due to their tough non-conference schedule and the fact that they had 58 new players, plus a new offensive scheme that they were trying to work in. The ODU fan base feels like they overachieved in wins, but they also left some meat on the bone by blowing double-digit leads against Wake Forest, Marshall, and Coastal Carolina. Now, I asked them about the offensive players we need to be aware of, that the defense of Western Kentucky is going to have to be just have their eye on. The first one they highlighted was running back number 0, Kadarius Callaway. He's an explosive runner with breakaway speed. He had 236 yards and 3 touchdowns versus Marshall. He has been injured, but he is expected to play, and he is a home run threat every time he touches the ball. The second player on offense that they highlighted was wide receiver number 20, Dominique Dutton. He is the fastest player in the Sun Belt. He has elite speed and acceleration. And if he gets by the corner, gets behind your defense, it's probably going to be 6, going to the house. Then the third offensive player that they highlighted was wide receiver number 5, Isaiah Page. He is an undersized slot receiver that has been clutch for them down the stretch. He's going to get free and press coverage and tear you up with the underneath routes and across the middle. So they've definitely got some, good running back, a couple good wide receivers there. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts on the Old Dominion offensive weapons that they have and that our defense must contend with?
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, whenever I was looking over their stat leader, Kadarius Callaway, he is their leading rusher. And, 78 carries for 594 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also, you got to look at Keshawn Wicks. He has 110 carries for 552 yards and also 4 touchdowns. So, that's kind of a two-headed monster back there that you're going to have to look at. If you look back, you mentioned Dominique Dutton. He has 6 receptions for 178 yards, which is average of 29.7 yards. And where's he at? He also has 4 touchdowns. 6 receptions, 178 yards. Yeah, I didn't know he was the fastest player in the Sun Belt, but definitely keep an eye on him and make sure he don't get behind you. And if you do have someone back there, in safety, I'm kind of surprised that Kadarius Callaway is their home run hitter. But also because their offense is throwing for 2,409 yards and they're rushing for 1,800. We finally get a team that passes more than they rush. So, definitely got to make them one-dimensional. Take away, I'm going to guess, take away the run game, make them, definitely make them a passing. And I believe our defense will be able to handle them because we do have some ball hawks back there. That's one thing I know we got for sure. Also, Kadarius Callaway in receptions, he's got 8 receptions for 48 yards and one receiving touchdown. I'm surprised they didn't mention Ray Mello Murphy. He's got 27 receptions, 495 yards, averages 18.3 yards per catch. He's got 3 touchdowns. And Javon Harvey, he has 29 receptions, 391 yards, and also four touchdowns. I mean, it seems like they do have some talented offensive players. So definitely it should be a good test for our defense in this game.
Now, looking at their defensive side of the ball, some guys that we need to be aware of. The first one they highlighted was linebacker Wayne Matthews. He is going to fill the role of Jason Henderson, who is their All-American linebacker who led the country in tackles for the second consecutive season. He's out with injury, will not be playing, but Wayne Matthews is their most balanced linebacker. He's very strong in run support and can also drop back in coverage as well. The second man they highlighted was safety Sean Asbury. He's a hard-hitting and run-stopping safety. He's often a blitzing safety or filling the short zone coverages and watch for delayed blitzes with him. So he kind of reminds me of that Kendrick Simpkins type player who plays down close to the line of scrimmage a lot and blitzes a lot. And then the third player they highlighted was quarterback Lamarion James. He is the top corner for Old Dominion. He has speed and agility and a very high vertical leap that makes up for his height disadvantage. He's a strong tackler in one-on-one situations and is also a very effective kick returner. And really, he kind of just hearing his speed, agility, and vertical makes up for his height disadvantage. Really reminds me of an Upton Stout type player. You know, he might not be the biggest guy on the field, but his physical attributes and just the effort that he puts on the field every play kind of makes up for those, you know, the height disadvantage he may be at versus whoever he's lined up across, but he's still going to make a play on the ball. So, you know, sounds like they've got some really aggressive guys on the defensive side. I don't want to say that we're lucky that their All-American linebacker is out, but he was a really, really effective player for them. You know, led them in tackles nearly every game, led the country in tackles. You want to see the best version of every team out there on the field. And unfortunately, we're not going to see their best defensive player on the field, it sounds like. But they do have some other guys that are going to have to step up. Next man up, we've dealt with injuries all season. And I'm sure that they're going to, rise to the occasion as well in a game that they also would like to win. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts on this ODU defense and the guys that we need to be aware of?
Well, this defense, they have, let's see, I think it's 9 interceptions, 9 forced fumbles, and 7 fumble recoveries. They have one pick six, and they have no fumble scoop and score. It does suck. Jason Henderson's out. He did have, like I said, 167 total tackles, 4.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. But you also got to look at who was it? Rashid Reasons. He has 33 total tackles, but he also has 7 pass defended and 1 interception. Also, Lamarion James. He has 48 total tackles and 6 pass breakups and 1 interceptions, and he scored their 1 pick six. Terry Jones, he has 104 tackles. He's a safety with 4 pass defended, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. Reed only has 11 interceptions on the season. One of those came against New Mexico State. I know. And I think a few of them came against Ohio State. But I feel like we should be able to take care of the ball. Now, granted, I'm not going to say there's no ball hawks, no ball hawks on Ohio State. ODU, dang, I hate this dang science infection. I hate losing my voice. Sorry for the audience. I hope I'm not annoying y'all so bad. I apologize for this. I'm doing my best. I feel like our offense should be able to take care of business here. You mentioned you compared a few of them to Kendrick Simpkins and Upton Stout, and we know how terrifying those players are to watch wreak havoc on opposing offenses. So I think it's going to be a good test for us. Definitely. Hopefully our offensive line can protect the quarterback, to limit the sacks, especially on them delayed blitz. and he's able to get the ball out clean, and to watch our receiver come down with it, and make a play, and get back and score a touchdown. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say before I get any worse on this.
Now, before we get into our keys to victory, like we always do, I did ask our friends over at the ODU Monarchists what were their 3 keys to victory from their perspective in order for ODU to beat Western Kentucky. And their answer was their number 1 was pass protection. They give up more sacks than anyone in the nation. All 5 of their starters on the offensive line are playing in the bowl game. But they have struggled to say the least. If their quarterback, Grant Wilson, has time, he can and will pick apart any secondary. But I think that's a big if he has time. So apply pressure, boys. Put your ears back. Get after that quarterback. Their second key to victory was establish the run and stick with it. Their offensive philosophy is to spread the field, 4 receivers outside the numbers. This lets their running backs have a lot of lanes, a lot of big gaps to take advantage of and exploit and have some explosive plays. Most of their wins have come in games where the run opens up and everything else kind of falls into place where they can balance that run and pass option that they have. And then their third key to victory was defensively, they have to get pressure. Far too often this season, they have been dropping 8 defenders in coverage and just allowed quarterbacks, what they said, this is their words, not mine, allowed opposing quarterbacks to bake a couple cakes while routes develop. Forcing passes or getting sacks is going to be a key against our Western Kentucky passing offense, which they're expecting to be very effective. Versus what they've seen maybe in the Sun Belt. So, Tyler, let's jump into our key to victories versus the ODU Monarchs. What is your first key to victory?
Well, I forgot all about this. I had it written down as a note. I'm going to say something that a buddy of mine loves to hear. Grant Wilson has had 51 sacks on him. That number, I don't believe, came up in the podcast. 51 sacks throughout the season. The team has given up 61 sacks total. Gosh, dang it. So I want Grant Wilson to be as nervous as a pup about to pass a peach pit. I mean, every time he sacks the ball, I want him to feel the breath of an offense or a defensive player, either Kendrick Simpkins, either Upton Stout, either someone, Hosea Wheeler, Nante Davis, friend of the show, Nante. I want him back there just making his life a living hell. I want so many. I want 51 sacks. In a perfect world, it'd probably be about Western would add 10 more to this game or that total. I hope they do. Freaking sack. A Big Mac sack for everybody in Bowling Green on the McDonald's app whenever we get to sack. I hear it all. I hear it. I listen for it on the radio broadcast. But that's kind of a joking one. But no, it's going to be my first key to victory. Get back there and sack the living crap out of the quarterback.
Yeah, I think, on the defensive side of the ball, I think we know what they can do well, which is run the ball. They have a couple explosive running backs that can break big plays, and the Monarchists told us themselves they like to spread the field. They like to run RPO type looks that are going to keep you guessing whether they're handing the ball off, play action, going down the field. I think my number 1 key to victory is keep the big play in front of you. Sometimes chunk plays are going to happen. Usually I like to say we need to win on first and second down. What we definitely can't do is just give up, 1 play, 2 play scoring drives where ODU just rips off a big run or a big over-the-top pass with a couple of those receivers that they highlighted and allow them to go down and score really fast. We just can't have that happen. Our secondary, our linebackers has to be aware of some of those big play threats that are going to be on the field and just keep the big play in front of you. Don't bite on those play action plays. Keep those running backs, tight ends, wide receivers, etc. in front of you. Don't let them get behind you. Just keep the big play in front of you and let the game play out how it needs to play out. What's your second key to victory?
Yeah, so, sorry, I got a little excited there. I remember that stat on the first key to victory. I got real excited about that. My second one is try to make them one dimensional. They are a very balanced team. I would like to see. I know our rush defense, as it mentioned earlier, was 11th worst in the nation. I would definitely like to take that away from them, and definitely try to make them beat us through the air. I feel like our defensive backs can definitely handle it. Maybe Dominic Dominic Dutton, definitely try to shut him back. And that Murphy player, uh, Isaiah Page. I'm trying to catch myself before I go hoarse. Isaiah Page. Gosh dang it. Definitely keep an eye on him, and definitely, but for sure, shut down Cardarius Callaway and Keyshawn Hicks, O.B. Sandy, and tried to definitely make them beat us through the air and make them one dimensional.
Yeah, I mean they have a dynamic offense, and what I think may very well happen in this game, just from all the stats and the players that we've read, I think this game could turn into a little bit of a shootout. Yeah, I think both teams getting to around the 40-point mark. I think it could be the first one to 40 may win this game. So I think Western's going to have to score all the points they can get. Is going to be my second key to victory. I mean, we averaged 29.8 points per game, I think it was, for the season. I think we're almost guaranteed to going to have to hit 40 points this game to win the game. I'm not giving away my final score prediction just yet, but I think this isn't going to be a 17-14 Jacksonville State type game. This isn't going to be 49-21 Liberty type game. I think it's going to be both teams are going to be into the 30s, high 30s. Whoever can get to 41st is going to be the team that comes out victorious. So, we just need to be the most efficient, finish drives with points, whether that be 3, whether that be 6. We need to put points on the board, because when it comes down to it, every point's going to matter and be important to us if we want to get the win in this game. Tyler, what's your third key to victory against ODU?
Well, I had to change it because I came up with the pick number. I originally was going to say go out there and have fun and ball out like you did last bowl game when we beat another Sunbelt team. And then I was going to replace it with, go out there and enforce your will on them and make them play your game, because that's what we as Hilltoppers can do, and we know we can do. I think I'm gonna go back. I think I'm gonna say, go out there and have fun, because this is the last time that some of these players will be playing together. And go out there and just ball out and have fun like they did in New Orleans Bowl, where they absolutely trashed USA. That was fun to watch. And I know the players were having fun out there, between Austin Reed's a little 1, 2, 3, 4. Him celebrating. They would celebrate, and all them players just look like they're having the time of their life out there. I mean, this is what college basketball or college football is all about. College athletics is going out there and making memories that you can remember for the rest of your life. So, I mean, go out there and just have a day, young guys. Have a day as I break down in tears.
My man over here going through it. I think my third key to victory is going to be to win the turnover battle. I mean, we saw that on senior night, that if you put yourself on the 8 ball and throw 4 interceptions, it's hard to win the game. We can't do that. We can't spot the other team extra possessions where we have empty possessions, and potentially give them short fields on which to operate on. So, we have been, the last couple of years, we've been highly productive in the turnover margin. And typically when you do that, it lends itself to winning the ball game. So I think we need to be in plus territory in the turnover battle. whether that's 1-0 or whether that's 4-1, 4-2, whatever it is. I think our defense needs to continue what they're doing ball hawk wise, forcing interceptions, forcing fumbles, just doing what they do, be playmakers, and just stop this offense, get them. They can't score if they're not on the field. As dynamic as a couple of their guys may be, if they're on the sidelines watching, hard to put points up. So I think we need to control the turnover battle, win that, and that will make our life a lot easier as we look towards the final score and how this game turns out. Now, Tyler, who's going to be your MVP for the Famous Toastery Bowl versus ODU?
I'm going to carry on the bandwagon of the running backs that I had the majority of the year, and I'm going to go with Elijah Young as being my MVP of the Toastery Bowl. I think he's going to bust out, have a big game. I think our bowl prediction at the beginning of the season was he's going to have a 1,000-yard rusher. He is 400 yards into 500. I don't think it would be freaking awesome if he got to 1,000 yards in this game. Let's go! I'm here for it. But but no, that's going to be my MVP, Elijah Young. Go Tubs.
Maybe I'm cheating. Maybe I'm taking the easy way out on this MVP, but I'm going to go with our special guest, wide receiver 1, the Yak King, Mr. Debo, all-time receptions leader, Malachi Corley. This is his swan song performance. This is his last game in a Hilltopper uniform. This is the icing on the cake. This is a sprinkle on the icing, whatever you want to call it. I expect him to show up and show out. You can see in just in interviews and that he's done since the season ended when they gave him the game ball. He's excited for one more game. He wants to put some distance. Right now, there's a 2-reception gap between Taywan and himself for the all-time receptions lead. He wants to put about 10 to 12 more on that number. He wants to put that away, make it a little harder for whoever the next Malachi may be that comes up through the ranks, whether they're on the roster now or not. He wants to put a little distance on there, make that record a little harder to attain for the next wide receiver 1, whomever that may be. So give me Malachi Corley. Give me a big game, 10-plus catches, 150 yards, a couple touchdowns. He's touching paint. He's getting in that pay dirt a couple times. Tyler, what's your score prediction versus ODU?
Dude, real quick, I think Malachi could have an extremely big and awesome game here just because he wants to show out for his last game in the Hilltopper uniform, in the chrome domes if they wear them, black if they also wear them, or white. I don't know what the uniform's going to be like, but he wants to show out for this game.
It's chrome.
It's chrome?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. In the chrome domes, last game in the chrome domes for Malachi Corley. Show out, young man. Effing have a day. I'm over here battling demons, man. Score prediction. I originally thought it may be a somewhat close game. I was originally going to say 28 to 14, but because we maybe not been able to reach that 30-point plateau much this season. 1, 2, 3, 4. Man, we did it a few times. I'm going to recant and go up a little bit. I'm thinking it's going to be a 49-44 point victory for the Tops. High scoring.
I'm going to give you the ODU Monarchists score prediction before I give you mine. And what they told me was they said we've been in more one-score games than anyone in the country. So expect a close game, high scoring, with fourth quarter fireworks and a very motivated ODU team to win a shootout 41-38. That was the ODU Monarchists score prediction, is ODU to get the win 41-38. Now, I saw their blurb, their response to my question on a score prediction. I already had my score prediction locked in. written down, chiseled in stone. As I said earlier, I think it's going to be the first team to get to 40 wins this ball game. So I'm going to go with their same score prediction, 41-38, but give me the Hilltoppers. I think we pull it out. I think we're, the more seasoned veteran team. I think, they mentioned earlier, they had double-digit leads in, I think, 3 games they mentioned that they let slip away. I just don't think they're going to know how to close this game out if they're in that position. I think there may be a late takeaway. Then Malachi is going to put the sprinkles on the icing, so to speak, of this game and of his career in this season with another bowl victory, the 3rd straight bowl victory over a Sun Belt opponent. Hate it for those guys. You keep getting scheduled for us. You half your conference ran away from us and joined another conference, but you're still going to see us and we're still going to beat you. So give me Western 41-38. Now that concludes our season recap and our bowl preview episode. Obviously it's been a really fun season, especially being our first season as a live and active podcast since we launched in April. And have been really football centered since then. And we've covered other sports as they've been in play, but our main focus has been football. And now we're approaching the last game of the season. Obviously we'll still touch on portal news, any player movement, coaching changes, developments, etc. that may happen, between now and next February, March, April, when the spring game for next season is occurring. But then we'll kind of be shifting into basketball centered content. Basketball will kind of be the main thing going on, both men's and women's. So just really excited for the fall sports that are ending now. Winter sports are in full swing, but will be the only thing on the table after football ends. This football season has been entertaining and fun, if not disappointing. I think we've talked about that. We've touched on that. It's disappointing for not only us as the fans, but also disappointing for the players that are, living it and working it, eating, breathing, the football schedule that they live every single day, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. We heard Tyson Helton say it last week. Those guys are running wide open for more hours than any of us would really care to do as, amateur athletes to provide entertainment for us. So, as disappointing as it may have been, I think a lot of us will take a 7-5 regular season, 5 consecutive years going to a bowl game, which is only one of 16 teams, I believe it was, that have gone to a bowl game 5 consecutive years. I think a bowl game appearance should be the minimum standard and expectation for the WKU football program coming into any season, no matter what the unknowns are. I think, 6 wins and a bowl appearance is the minimum expectation. Competing for a conference championship, making a conference championship game and hopefully winning it is obviously that next tier. And the next tier above that is going to be, kind of what Liberty did this year, where they ran the table and, they ultimately got that New Year's 6 invite. And then we all know that the playoff is expanding going forward after this year. So there's going to be more seats at the table. And we as a program, as a team, have to position ourselves to be in that conversation. And we talked about it last episode with the Red Towel Trust and what they're trying to do as far as helping WKU acquire and attract and retain talent. We talked about that during the Malachi Corley interview earlier this episode. But that's not going away. NIL, transfer portal, etc. is not going away. And if we want to be in those conversations, we saw FAU go to a Final Four of basketball last year. We've seen Liberty now go to a New Year's 6 bowl this year, coming up real soon. So, Western is right there in that same competitive arena. We're right there as far as programs, coaches, players. But if we want to get to that next level, it's going to take all of us and jumping into that Red Towel Trust and what they're doing over there. And I know people think that if you can only contribute $5-10 a month, whatever it may be, that's not going to make a difference. But if we have a couple hundred people doing that, that's going to make a difference. We don't need a bunch of Houchins Industries type home run hitters that are donating hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Those people, those guys are there. They're going to be there, major contributors. They're home run hitters, I'll call them. But we need guys that can hit singles. We need guys like me and you that can step up and do $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever that number may be for you. Whatever makes sense for you, just do it, because at the end of the day, every dollar is going to help and put our program in a better position to win games. And that's not going to change. That's not going away. And I'm excited to see, where that venture takes us in the future. And also, kind of where we can grow that and help our coaches and programs just win more games going forward. So, the end of the football season is bittersweet every year because, it's until next August, the end of August next year before we're going to see another football game after the 18th. But there's going to be just a lot of other WKU sports, basketball especially, that we'll cover between now and then, and portal and recruiting news and just everything that goes with it. And I'm excited to dive into all that. So I'm excited for the bowl game. I'm excited to get that victory. I'm speaking it into existence, and just ready to just keep this thing moving, into the next season of sports. So Tyler, give us your final words if you can, and take us the heck out of here.
I'm going to try to, and just to echo what you said. Big fan of history. During the American Revolutionary War, I'm going way back to the beginning, basically when history started. 1770s.
America.
A bunch of really militia and untrained, soldiers stepped up and beat the world controlling powerhouse of the British. So, when people say that, I'm just a little old me, I can't do nothing. You band together with other people, and that's when change is made. If you look over history, whenever the small people, band together, they can make change. And it's no different here at Western. I believe we can step up and beat the Goliath, and make the Final Four run like FAU did, or get to the New Year's Six bowl game like Liberty did. There's nothing stopping us. We are the Hilltoppers. We can do it. I take pride. I take pride in wearing this red towel on my chest or on my clothes, or repping it. And with this podcast, man, I may not be good at it. I have a face for radio and a voice for neither one, TV or radio. But man, I appreciate you letting me on this with you. This is awesome. I've had so much fun doing it, and I'm not stopping anytime. I'm definitely not quitting my day job, but I'm not stopping the podcast, or at least doing this. This made my fandom so much better, because now I get to talk to the players, I get to meet the players, I get to study the players even more, and it makes it so more surreal, if you would. Sometimes I try using big fancy $10 words, but man, this is awesome, and I'm looking forward to basketball season, because I think the basketball season is going to be special. Women's basketball, watching or keeping up with the women's volleyball season as they had another dominating season. Man, it's been fun. So with that said, I appreciate all the fans listening for supporting us and supporting the football team, the basketball team, volleyball team, softball, baseball, what have you. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it going. And let's get some more championships. But before I go, I got to talk some trash about ODU. They talked about how hard their non-con was. Like, bro, you played Virginia Tech. They were 6-6 in the ACC. All right. You played Wake Forest and you lost to Virginia Tech 36-17. You lost to Wake Forest, who I looked it up. They were 4-8. 4-8. Bro, you lost to them 27 to 24. Your non-con, Texas A&M Commerce. Didn't even know that was a college. You beat them 10-9, bro. You beat them by 1. And it was 10-9. Now, granted, your starting quarterback wasn't playing. I'm battling demons and I'm casting them out right now because it's my last football episode that we're going to do. You beat Texas A&M Commerce 10-9. Granted, I'm going to go back. Granted, your starting quarterback he wasn't your high passer, and your high rush was Roche. He had 38 yards against that powerhouse from out in Texas A&M Commerce. That's laughable. I can't wait to kick y'all's asses. This is going to be so much fun. And hopefully I don't have to eat crow on that. But, man, that is fun. I mean, granted, y'all did finally play a actual good team. In the non-con, that was Liberty. And y'all got destroyed 38-10. Y'all got spanked, wrapped it, and Liberty put you to bed. Just like the little babies you ran from Conference USA. We still here. Y'all ran. We still here, baby. We ain't gone nowhere. Marshall, we coming for you next. We gonna have a freaking game. We got to. I would like to see that rivalry weekend at the end of the year, like a respecting rivalry should. That or MTSU at the end of the year. But I'm not letting Sunbelt go. Especially teams that left, just get off easy. Not happening. I mean, that non-con is laughable, especially with Texas A&M. I'm going to rephrase this. Texas A&M Commerce, and they only beat them 10-9.
Take
I will. I got you, because my voice is going to be terrible tomorrow. Word. So with that, I will say, Moff, who has it better than this?
Nobody.
Nobody. Go Tops.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See y'all.